Welcome to the first weekly episode of Health Your Own Way podcast, where we discuss health topics ranging from physical, mental, emotional, as well as current fads within the industry. The goal here is to provide insight on those topics to allow you to make choices in your personal health. So for today, we're going to be talking about nutrition, and today I have my guest here, Tiani. We're going to be talking about nutrition itself, and first of all, a little feedback in respects to her bio. She's a certified personal trainer, yay, a holistic nutritionist, and a mother, and expecting. Congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
So that being said, just I know that I did give a short bio, but give us a little background of your professional experience.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mo. Great to be here.
Thank you.
So I am a fitness coach and I work with women to achieve sustainable fat loss in a way that allows them to live a lifestyle they love without any deprivation.
Now, I did mention earlier that you're a holistic nutritionist, and a lot of people may not know what that is, and people understand what a dietitian is and nutrition is. May I ask you, can you give us a little insight of what the difference is between those two, like a holistic nutrition and a dietitian?
That's a great question. A lot of people actually mix those two up, and from both camps, from dietitian and nutritionist, they tend to kind of give the definition in different ways. So I'm going to try and give it in a neutral way without adding any kind of my own opinions into it. So a dietitian is a regulated profession, and that means that only dietitians can practice as dietitians, and they have to practice in a certain way that the government tells them to, following certain guidelines. Holistic nutritionists have, the dietitian camp will tend to say more like, well, they can kind of, anyone can call themselves that, they can kind of do anything, but they are regulated within their scope of practice, meaning they can't practice medicine, they can't treat certain diseases, and that kind of varies based on the province. But in a nutshell, dietitians have to practice a certain way, and holistic nutritionists are welcome to kind of have more leeway in terms of like the way that they give nutrition protocols to their clients, but still staying within whatever is regulated by their scope of practice.
So are you saying they could basically tailor it to somebody else's needs? It's not like verbatim, like depending on who you're dealing with, you can tailor to what they need and what their goals are in long term.
Exactly. So as a nutritionist myself, that's really the big difference that I see, that it's more holistic. Like they're taking into account other aspects of the client's lifestyle, and they can give more tailored recommendations, as you mentioned.
Okay.
Besides the cut and dry, like eat this much at this time kind of thing.
I appreciate that. So I learned something new, and thank you. So I find that within nutrition, there's lack of basic knowledge. Like when we're younger, we're taught the basic Canadian food guide. So from my personal perspective, I think a lot of people get lost. What is your opinion on why people lack basic nutrition out there?
That's a great question, and the food guide relates to kind of like the last question you asked. So that's what dietitians are taught to prescribe to people, and the food guide itself has been controversial, especially lately, because it's very limiting in terms of it's outdated in the information, and there's been a lot of talk that it's kind of funded heavily by certain industries like the meat industry and the dairy industry.
I've seen that, yes.
Yeah, and then, when I was a kid, I remember they had like grains where like you need like 17 servings if you're a teenage boy, and it was like bread and like, I'm like, who needs like 10 slices of bread? It was something crazy. Okay. But anyway, so I think the reason people are a little bit misinformed is because there's actually too much information now. They grew up with Canada's Food Guide. That was kind of like pushed one way, however you want to interpret that. And then now there's new information coming out saying like, hey, maybe these things aren't so healthy. And I think people's heads get a little muddled. So that's where we're confused.
I can see that. And just to add on to that, with so much information, now there's new things called like fad diets. We're talking about baby food diets, keto, stuff like that. I know that as a nutritionist, a holistic nutritionist, you get, and also as a personal trainer, you get clients that come up to you and say, what do you think about this and this? Why do you think there's so much fad diets out there, and why do people gravitate to those kind of fad diets?
That's another great question. So keto, oh my God, I have a lot of opinions about this one. The thing with fad diets is people really, when they're lost or they cannot achieving certain results, they want to attribute something to not achieving those results. So they want to say like, I know it's because I've been eating carbs. They want to put like a lock in the key and say like, this is my solution. And to be quite honest, people often want to take the blame away from themselves and their own habits. So instead of addressing habits that they've created over the years, they say like, hey, if I follow this strict diet, it's going to fix all my problems. And it does give them a framework, and I'm not saying that it doesn't work, but something I ask my clients is, can you sustain this diet every day for the next 5 years? Most people would say like, hell no, I'm counting my cherry tomatoes. I'm counting my freaking cherry tomatoes, sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about that.
So they'll be like, no, this is a temporary thing. And I'm like, so that means you're not going to sustain the weight loss. So anyway, I think that it's something we should steer away from because it's just not sustainable.
No, I agree with you. And I find that, again, just to touch on the fact that a lot of people want to pinpoint something. They want to have a reason why they feel, okay, if I do this, then this is better. And sometimes you're right. You have to ask people, if you can't sustain this for the next 3 or 4 months, like let's say you give them, follow this for 3 months. After 3 months, what have you learned? What skill sets have you learned to sustain this diet? And to add that, like when you talk to your clients, so what are one of the two, I guess, I guess you can say tools that you give them to help make their change their diet more sustainable?
Yeah, so I think that's really important. With my clients, I like to, off the bat, say there's no good and bad foods. And I think that with fad diets, it's always like there's a bad guy and there's a good guy. And then it's, another reason people go towards that is because then that makes it a lot more crystal clear for them. And it's a lot more clear than, like we just mentioned, there's too much information. So people like the diet because it tells them what's good, what's bad.
Okay.
With my clients, I like to explain that there is no good and bad, but there's just, food is energy. So there's things that give you more bang for your buck in terms of energy return, and there's things that give you less. So anyway, within the guidelines that I give my clients, it's mostly whole foods based nutrition that is going to help them like either perform better, or get better body composition, or just feel better. But also showing them how to incorporate foods that are less nutritious in a way that's going to align them with those goals.
Great. I guess then the question then to a lot of people is, okay, so you're giving advice now. If they're seeking help, what's the first thing they should look into, or what type of coach should they, like not credentials, I guess maybe credentials, but as well as knowledge of that person they're seeking help with? Like, I guess my question really is, if you're looking for a nutritionist or a holistic nutritionist, what is your suggestion on how to reach out to one?
Well, the first thing I would say when you're looking for anyone to work with is look for what type of outcomes you want to achieve. Because I think people don't know that themselves sometimes. Like for instance, if you want fat loss, if you want performance in your sport, if you want to have more energy, if you want to improve your digestion, these are all different outcomes. And when you're looking for someone, you should really look for someone who has a proven track record of helping people achieve that specific outcome. So I think that really, it doesn't matter what type of nutritionist, whether it's a trainer or any professional you're working with, you need to make sure that you can trust that they're going to provide the outcome that you've identified.
If people were interested in reaching out to you, getting your advice, because again, you are a certified personal trainer, you're a nutritionist as well, and you're a mother, so you know what it's like and what challenges are. How will they reach you?
Well, I can be reached on Instagram or Facebook, and both are by the name Daily Dose of Health. And there I really provide people with lots of valuable content, but also they can watch one of my free trainings, which is a webinar that's going to show them how to achieve fat loss in a sustainable way. And from there, I'm happy to work with anyone who jives with my philosophies.
Great. So towards the end of the episode itself, in the comments, make any comments if you want to reach out to her. That being said, we are going to have, there's going to be contact information that you can know how to reach Tijana right here, beautiful woman. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate you coming. This is the first episode, and thank you for taking time and opportunity to talk to me and discuss nutrition for people that may not know. I know this is such a huge topic, so hopefully we can have you come back and maybe break down certain type of nutrition that people should look into and discuss. I would really want to discuss more fad diets so people can understand that it's not required if they want to have a sustainable lifestyle.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank you for joining us today on our weekly episode on Health Your Way podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, share with others, and please feel free to comment below and ask any questions on topics we've discussed, as well as future topics you'd like to hear about. Have a happy and healthy week, and be sure to tune in next week for the next episode on our Health Your Own Way podcast.